All right, today we'll be talking about rest durations. I added S because there are multiple types of rests, but
Mm.
you could also go with the singular rest duration, which refers to a period of rest in between when you sing a line or a few words from a song and when you go into the next line of that song or your lyrics. So,
Mm.
based on the definition we have on the screen, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, I'm seeing the screen, but I don't know. I think my network is really poor.
Oh,
It's blurry. Sometimes
oh,
it's become clear and then
it disappears again.
sometimes to be very blurry. I cannot read it now, actually. I'm just
Okay,
seeing it.
all right. I'll make sure to upload it on YouTube and then notify you.
Okay, sir. Thank
Yes,
you, sir.
since it's been recorded, and also the one from last week. I know I didn't post that one yet.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so uh, as long as you're paying attention, you should be fine, even if you're not able to see everything right now. By the
Mm.
time you revisit the video, it will become clearer. Rests
Yes, sir.
represent periods of silence in a measure. So, a measure in music is like when you say 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, within that count of 1 to 4, that means you are referring to a 4/4 time signature, which we'll explain much more later on. But where you have 4 beats in a measure, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you notice the way I was counting the 1, 2, 3, 4, I can
Mm.
decide to do an omission. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can decide to say 1, 3, 4. So if you're able to see what's on the screen right now, the one I typed 1, 3, 4, I still observed the space where number 2 was supposed to rest, the count of 2. I still observed that space, but
Mm.
I did not pronounce 2.
So,
So what that simply means is that I rested on the beat of 2 or on the count of 2, and then I continued to vocalize with my voice on 3 and 4. 1, rest, 3, 4. 1, rest, 3, 4. Now, where the rest is, you are just going to be silent in that place and catch your breath
mm.
up, taking more breath, and then continue 3, 4. 1, breathe in, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. 1, breathe in, 3, 4.
Three.
So you're able to rest and taking a breath before you continue with 3 and 4.
Mm.
So sometimes if a song is one of those type of songs that drags, you drag it out, you sustain the song. At some point, you start running out of breath. You need to take a short, quick break of silence, which we refer to in this case as rest. You need to take a short rest and
Also
then,
rest.
yeah, draw in more air and then continue with the singing. If it's on the instrument, of course, the instruments are not living beings, so they cannot draw in breath, but
Mm.
they also observe rest. Musical instruments
Mm.
also observe rest. How do they achieve that? They simply achieve the rest by keeping silent, by keeping quiet. You don't play anything at that point. So if you're playing a musical instrument, you simply don't play anything. You just observe the rest and let your fingers observe the actual rest, or your lips if it's a woodwind instrument that
Yeah.
you have to exert the energy of blowing the wind into the instrument. So that's how the rest works, either for vocals or for musical instruments. Musical instruments just keep quiet. You don't play anything there, but you count it silently in your mind. 1, 2. The 2 is silent, and then you continue playing the next note as is written. But in this case, we needed to also use a symbol, a musical symbol, to represent how long a rest is going to be. Is the rest going to be all through 1, 2, 3, 4? Or is just going to be on the point of 2? Or we want the rest to be 2 and 3? 2 and 3 like this? So whatever happens, we have all of these different kinds of rest that can be used to symbolize or notify whoever is playing that music or performing that music, in the professional language of it now, to notify the person that, okay, a rest is coming up and you are supposed to keep quiet for how many counts? 2 counts out of 4. The next question is, you now ask yourself, is which of the 2 counts? Based on what I wrote, 1, 2, 3, 4, we are resting on 2 and 3. So if you have a constant clap of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4. Now, my clapping continued, but my vocals was only pronouncing 1 and 4. Did you notice that? So I continued clapping.
Sorry, sir. Had issues. I just got back into the call now.
All right. Let me recap on that. So I was saying that
Yes, sir.
within this bar, the measure I created cycle with red, or with the pipe vertical line of red on the left and right hand side. So there are 4 counts, 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if I decide to clap to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, while my clapping remains constant, my voice will only pronounce 1 and 4. I will not pronounce 2 and 3 on the second line. 1,
Okay.
4, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 2 and 3 are silent because those are periods of rest for the voice. But my clapping continues, signifying that the music has not ended. The music continues, the song continues, but the vocals has been instructed to take a break, to rest while the music continues, and then the voice will come back at count number 4. This is where we got the idea of defining music as a combination of sound and silence from. It's like one of the shortest definition of music. What is music? Music is a combination of sound and silence.
Wow.
Yeah, that's like one of the barest, simple, minimum of definition of music. Now, if you now want to beautify it, then you talk about the harmony and the melody and the instruments being added together one after the other in an orderly manner. Yeah, like we defined in one of our previous classes. So, but the most
Yes,
important
sir.
thing is that there is sound and there is silence. Because if there is no silence, it ends up becoming noise. If you are just singing from the beginning, every breath, the person will literally choke because you are not able to rest.
Yeah.
You're not able to rest in between. So
Yeah.
it's this same rest that the musicians also observe. Sometimes you see that when at the beginning of a song, the drummer is just touching it quietly, he's not playing very loud, and then somewhere during the maybe an interlude or verse one, the bass guitar comes in, and then in the chorus, maybe the trumpet will come in, and you now have full drums playing along, or a second keyboardist will now start playing. But at the very beginning, maybe just one or two instruments will start the music, while other instruments are resting. But if you look at their script, their music sheet of music for every instrument, while the piano is playing silently, quietly, all of them are just observing this kind of notes, which are rests. They are resting while silently following whatever the other instruments are playing until they get to that point where all of them can now continue playing or singing. Yeah, so that's what happens in rest. Now let's take a look at the various types of rests. So from last week, if you remember, we talked about the different types of notes, the
Yes, sir.
whole note or
How?
semibreve, half note,
Yeah.
quarter note,
Quarter.
yes,
8 notes.
eighth note, and the last one,
And six.
awesome,
The 16th note.
yes, 16th note. So each of these notes directly on the staff, what we have there is the direct equivalence of the rest. Uh, Let me rephrase that maybe, or probably draw. This is equivalent to this. This is equivalent to this. This type of rest is equivalent to quarter note. This type of rest is the 8th note rest, and this is the 16th note rest. So that's how the rests are divided. Whole, half, quarter, 8, 16. So which means if your whole note rest, if your whole note is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, but instead of the whole note, they now drew the rest. You see how it's hanging below a line, right? When the
Yes,
rest
sir.
is hanging below a particular line on the staff, then you just rest, 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 rest. You rest all through the count of 4. But if it was a whole note that was written there, then you have to drag out the note, like, for example, do, until you exhaust the count of 4. That's why in the next statement, in the notes, it says both a quarter rest. If you see the ones highlighted in bold, that's a quarter rest, and a quarter note occupy the same amount of time. So if I ask you to draw a quarter note and you drew something like this, and then I ask you to draw a quarter rest, what I'm expecting is for you to draw something like this. This is the note, and this is the rest. Both of them occupy the same amount of time in music. All right?
Yes, sir.
So the only difference is that while the note makes a sound, the rest is silent.
Oh.
If you see a note, it means sing that note or play that note. And if you see a rest symbol, it means keep quiet, but as long as this note should have lasted if you were to play the note or if you were to sing the note. I hope that makes sense. All right, let me clean this and then we'll go over this example. It's a pretty short session today, but very, very important. So on this particular treble clef, okay, we see 4, 4. Now some people make the mistake of calling it 4 over 4. 4 over 4 is a fraction. That is not music. Okay? In music, we just call the two numbers 4, 4. If it's 6, 8, you call it 6, 8. Whatever number you see at the top and whatever number is below, that's what you just pronounce the numbers. Don't use the word over. So keep that in mind. Now, even though when writing it out, the easiest way to write it out is to use the symbol 4/4 or 2/2, something like that, 6/8, which to the layman's eyes or in the mind of whoever has never gone through any theoretical class of music will refer to it as 4 over 4. But it's not 4 over 4, it's 4, 4 times signature in this case. So this is a measure from the beginning to the end. We call it 4, 4, which means there are 4 beats made up of 4. What note will give you 4 to fill up the same amount of time as a whole note? It's a quarter note. We need, if you remember the tree that we drew,
yes, sir.
We needed 4 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. We needed 4 quarter notes to make up one whole note. Yes. So whenever you see 4, 4, it means you are in each measure. Okay. Now, even if the music continues like this, even if it continues from the beginning, from the start of that music, okay, from this double red line that I have here, to where you see the next vertical bar, it may be black or in a different color, you are expected to have only 4 quarter notes inside of that measure. So this is what we refer to as measure. From point A, this is our point A over here, and this is point B. So from point A to point B, we're expected to have 4 quarter notes inside of it. And then from point B to point C, we're also going to have another 4 quarter notes. From point B to point C is going to be another 4 quarter notes. I don't want to jump ahead, but you'll soon discover that even though it's going to be 4 quarter notes, we are permitted to use any combination of either a whole note or 2 half notes.
Okay.
So if you have 2 half notes here, like this, it's still the same thing, because 2 of this, now 1 of this is equal to this and this combined together.
Yes.
So it's still permitted to be used in a 4/4 time signature. All right, so just keep that in mind. So when played, you're going to have all the 4 notes sound together. I'm not sure if you're able to hear the notes, but hopefully it will come out loud enough for you to hear, like this. Did you hear that? Okay, I'll play it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, when we replace the second note, the second quarter note, when we replace it with a rest, this is what the rest looks like. Now, if we play the beat again, well, we're only going to hear at the point of 1,
3 and 4.
1, 3, and 4. Because our 2 is now silent as a rest. So this is what it will sound like. Let's play it and see. You see that? 1, rest, 3, 4. 1, rest, 3, 4. So that's how the rest operates in music. The same thing applies to every other type of rest that we decide to use. Let me clean this out. Okay. All right. Now, taking a quick look at other types of rest. The whole note, which we can also refer to as a whole rest. Remember, I mentioned earlier on that it's written in a way such that it hangs below the 4th line when you count from below. So during your practice, when you're practicing how to write rest, line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4. Make sure you're on line 4 and then hang the rest completely covered up. Okay?
For the whole.
Yes, for the whole note. So in the description, it's described as a box descending from the 4th staff line. So once you have that box descending like this from line 4, then you know that that is a whole note. All right. And then when we have a rest that is ascending or that's written on top of the 3rd line, it's referred to as half rest. So they look alike, except that one is hanging below the line 4 and the other one is hanging on top of line 3. So that is a half rest. And this is how you draw it. it's drawn as a box ascending from the middle staff line, which is line 3 on the staff. And then, just like notes, rests can have flags. Yeah. And then on the 8th rest, which occupies the same duration as the 8th note, you see the flag?
Yes, sir.
This is the flag right here, where I put the red dot. This is the flag of the 8th rest. And then the 16th rest, how many flags does it have? 16th rest will have 2 flags. 8th rest, 1 flag. Quarter rest, no flag, just the sign, the symbol. And just like we talked about notes the last time, that notes we can have 32nd note, 64th note, even though they are rarely used. We can also have those kind of rests as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can also have 32nd rest and 64th rest, as the case may be. So now we'll take a look at a chart that shows the rest tree, the rest family tree.
Oh, nice.
So this is what it looks like.
Rest family tree.
Yep. If you're able to take some time to practice drawing this, I believe it will be really helpful, just the same way you worked on the actual notes, the whole note, whole rest. So but in this case, when you're trying to practice how to write them out, how to draw them out, I would suggest drawing the type of note and the equivalent rest. So draw out the note and draw out the rest alongside it. So that way you imprint in your memory which rest is equivalent to which note. And then by the time we start working on actual songs or pieces of music, it will be easy to recognize which is which and follow through accordingly. All right, so this is where we're stopping today. When next we meet, we may not be able to meet next week because I have a program. So, but when next we meet, we'll be talking about dots and ties. Oh, we skipped one topic: measures and time signatures. That's what we're going to do. I deliberately skipped that because I wanted us to have the rest duration, which are equivalent to the note duration, which we covered last week. So the next time we meet, we'll go over measures and time signatures so that we can touch on the different types of time signatures and how to understand them. Yeah. So I'll give this room for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any question now. I'll just appreciate if you can help me with the links so that I'll go over the class again because my network was really breaking. I could not hear you at some point.
Sorry about that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll make sure I get that done.
Thank you very much.
Get the links over to you before Monday.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. All right. You have a wonderful rest of your
day. Yes, sir.
We'll be in touch.
You too, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.